Welcome to this quick hit pathway on growing with partnerships. If you're listening to this pathway, you're probably struggling with what we call the F word in SHIFCO. The F word is the fulcrum, and the fulcrum is a pressure point. So if you think of the fulcrum like a seesaw, it's the fulcrum is that little piece of metal that holds the two sides of the seesaw. So it's a pressure point between two opposing forces in your business. And it's a very difficult place to be, as you very well know. And those two pressure points, if you think of a seesaw, it's two people on the seesaw, and they're each putting opposing pressure on the seesaw, and that fulcrum holds that pressure, it absorbs that pressure. So you're in a fulcrum, and one side of it is demand, revenue. Do I have enough revenue? The other side is supply. How do I service that revenue, either through your product inventory or service capacity? Every business, until it reaches multi-million-dollar status, has to go through one of three fulcrums. There are three of these little crazy guys. And when you're in the first fulcrum, what your revenue looks like is this purple line. Get the work, do the work. Oh, I need more work. Get to work, do the work. Oh, I need more work. Get to work, do the work. Really, really, really tricky. So that's the first fulcrum. The second fulcrum looks like this green line. And in this green line, it's better because I'm still going up, but I have like these downturns. So I'm growing. No, I'm not. Okay, I'm growing again. No, I'm not. And the challenge is we don't have enough time to continue to get the revenue because we're so busy handling the revenue. It doesn't matter whether it's a product or a service. Ultimately, we want to move through these fulcrums so that our revenue line looks like this, more like climbing stairs. There's dips, but they're minor and short-lived. They're more like plateaus. And it is not easy to get a business to this level. This is typically this starts to level off around $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month. It is not easy to get a business to this level. So if you're listening to this pathway, you're thinking about partnerships as one of the avenues to handle the supply side so that you have more time to get revenue. Now, you're familiar with the Conscious Business Growth Platform. There are three fulcrums. The first one is around the launch phase. Sometimes it shows up in launch, sometimes it shows up in shape. And it's called the time fulcrum. And the time fulcrum is when there's not enough hours in the day to grow the business because you're so busy getting the work, doing the work, getting the work, doing the work. Very, very painful. That's the first fulcrum. Second fulcrum is called the resource fulcrum. It shows up somewhere between 10 to 30K a month, maybe a little bit beyond that. And the resource fulcrum is, okay, I'm getting work. My clients are referring new business. I'm networking, whatever your strategy is, I'm growing, but I don't have enough resources and I don't have enough profit to hire the resources that I need. Partner strategies are really good in the resource fulcrum. Third fulcrum is called the leadership fulcrum. It's typically 50,000 to 2 million is when the resource fulcrum the leadership fulcrum shows up. And that's really getting the organization structured in such a way that you have a team of people that you're working with, leaders, to help you grow and scale the business. So those are the fulcrums, and the partnering strategy is part of a pathway called Business Simple. And we talk about partners in Business Simple, but I've put this little tutorial together for members who need more in-depth work on the partner side of it. When we're in Business Simple, what we're trying to solve for is the operations, the supply side of the equation to balance this fulcrum. And there's 5 P's in Business Simple: simplifying the product offering, people and resources, pricing and profits, process, tools, and technology, and then, of course, partnership models. And the idea is when we get these 5 components streamlined, we then have some time back, and that time should then be spent on demand generation. So that's just a quick crash course in Business Simple. When you're ready, that's a pathway you can certainly take. But now I want to shift and talk specifically about partnership models. There's 3 types of partnership models. The first one I call informal. I like to think of it as crawl. So I'm a big fan in crawl, walk, run. And an informal partnership is, hey, let's trade services. Hey, let's collaborate. Let's refer business to each other. Let's have a lead exchange. We're not like, we're not getting engaged. We're not getting married. We're just simply kind of testing the waters a little bit. So crawl, walk, run, informal, contract-based, formal. I like to start with informal partnerships so you really get to know people. I'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a minute. But, starting informally keeps things nice and informal so we can really evaluate whether or not we're on the same page. When you've done that, then moving to contract-based partnerships is the next step. Some examples of that are what's called white label. White label is when I'm reselling your services, but they look like mine. Pass through, royalty, rev share, what's called hub and spoke. And that's typically based on value or IP or competency. So in the case of contract, there's going to be a contract outlining the responsibilities and outlining who does what and outlining who gets paid what. That is a really good next step. And so it's a next step when you've already done some of the informal work together. You can tell you're aligned, you're on the same page. Now let's take it to the next level. And then the third type is formal. Formal is where you're going to add them, they're going to have a piece of equity in your business. You're going to form a corporation or a co-op together. A lot of times I see people jump to this third phase, but unfortunately, those partnerships tend to fail, and they fail because we're not aligned. So I'm a big fan of starting with informal relationships first, then moving to contract before you jump into a full-on partnership, because that alignment is very difficult to obtain. And it all sounds good in the beginning, but rarely do partnerships work out unless they move through these other early steps. So think crawl, walk, run when it comes to partnerships. Now, when we think about informal partnerships, that's the crawl stage. What you've got to remember is a business partner is a relationship first and foremost. So just like you wouldn't meet somebody and get married, just like you wouldn't meet somebody and get engaged, it's the same with this. You really should start with a very informal relationship first, just to see if we're aligned. And again, if you start to date someone, you're not going to get married right away. So it's the same thing. We want to start slow, and really make sure that we're in alignment. And my philosophy here is I expect every partnership to work, but I'm going to be prepared if it doesn't work. And you do want to be prepared if it doesn't work, because the vast majority of partnerships don't work. That's just the truth of business partnerships. Now, when we move to a more formal partnership model, there's a couple of things you have to consider. You need to know why you want to partner. Too often I see entrepreneurs jump into a partnership because they don't want to work alone. They like to collaborate. That's not a good enough reason. There needs to be something much more tangible. So be crystal clear on why you want to partner. Second, know what you can realistically do for each other. We assume that people will do certain things. They assume we're going to do certain things, but in reality, that doesn't work. Again, if you think about when you're dating somebody seriously and you start to cohabitate, you're thinking, who's going to take out the trash? Who's going to wash the dishes? Who's going to do this? You start working through those expectations. Same thing is true here. What can you realistically do? What are the expectations? And then third is know how you're going to partner in a mutually beneficial way. Now, it is all about defining and aligning expectations. That is the only way for a partnership of any type to work. You've got to make sure that you're in alignment. One of the ways that you can do that is a tool that I call Partner Cubed. And the Partner Cubed approach is a way to collaborate to bring success to each other in those early stages. So Partner Cubed looks like this. Hey, we are going to partner, and you have, let's say you have a lead generation company and I have a branding company. And we feel like we could refer business to each other, and we're going to try to grow. Well, what Partner Cube is, okay, great. You bring me a client from your network, and I bring you a client from my network. And we see how that goes. Are we aligned? Do we struggle? Is it awkward? Do I not like how you sell? Do you not like how I sell? That's two of the Partner Cube. And then the third thing is, let's collaborate to find and propose another client that we share. And you can look at this exact same model if it's on the operation side, or you can look at this exact same model if it's on the demand gen side. Doesn't matter, but it's basically, you do this for me, I do this for you. Let's collaborate to do this together. This Partner Cube model will save you a ton of headaches. It will save you a ton of time, because you get a chance to really work through the alignment in real time by doing something together. You get to see, are they truly able to bring you clients? Or if you're doing it on the services side, are they really able to deliver on the services side, and vice versa? But then when you get to that third part of Partner Cube, you can really see how you work well together. So I've used this model for decades, and it's one of the best ways in those early parts of the relationship to really try each other out and date a little bit before we get engaged. So now let's talk a little bit about why to partner. I want you just to pause the slide for just a second and jot down some reasons why you want to partner. And I'm just going to pause and let you hit the pause button and think about why you want to partner, and then we're going to drill down on that. Okay, so now that you're back, when you think about a partnership, what comes to mind? So most entrepreneurs seek a partner because they don't like working by themselves, and they know they need complementary skill sets. My advice to you is, rather than taking an equity partner to do that, develop a partnership model that's first informal and then contractual, so that you can work through some of those specifics before you turn that into an equity partnership. So why partner? Well, when competencies fill a gap. So I am able to do demand lead generation. I need somebody that can do branding. I'm really good at lead generation. I need somebody that can do websites. So that's an example of a good partner would be somebody that's going to help me fill a gap, but it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. Now, the key to this is both businesses have to be what's called a going concern. What that means is both of our businesses need to be viable. What I notice a lot that happens is two businesses who their businesses are not growing very well basically think that a partner is going to help them grow their business. Never works. Never, ever, ever works. Both businesses need to be fully functioning going concerns for a partnership to work. If you're trying to partner with somebody that doesn't have a viable business, meaning they're growing the demand and they're figuring out their competencies, if you try to partner with a business that doesn't have that, or you're not like that, it is going to fail, and it's not a pretty thing to clean up. Second is when a collaboration results in a better product or service. I have lots of collaborations that fill gaps, but those gaps are filled best when that collaboration gives me a better product or service. And then third is when working together increases profit or speed to market. So those are the three biggest reasons why a partnership would work. Now, there's others I'm sure that you came up with, but those are typically the big three. The main thing is both partners need to be going concerns, and you don't want to jump into a contractual relationship before you really know whether or not you're in alignment and whether or not they're truly a going concern. And if two businesses who are not fully functioning come together, it's like two people that are not whole coming together and trying to have a marriage. It's not going to work. Same thing is true with partnerships. Now let's talk about how to partner. I have really strong opinions about this. In addition to that crawl, walk, run, I call this the ABCs of partnering. A stands for alignment. Are our values, approach, and business style aligned? That's an example of why you do not want to jump into a equity partnership, because you can say all day long we're aligned, but you're not going to know that until you're in the foxhole, as my grandpa used to say. My grandpa used to say, that's somebody I want to get in a foxhole with. It's a military expression. You're not going to know until you're actually in there working together whether or not you're truly aligned. So alignment is critical. The best way to test that is start with an informal partnership with that partner cube model, get a chance to see whether or not we're aligned. And then you can move it to stage 2, crawl, which is having a contract in place. The B stands for benefit. Are we set up to benefit proportionally to the value provided? One of the things that kills partnerships of all type is if one partner is doing more than the other. Happens a lot. And in equity partnerships, it's the kiss of death. So we need to make sure that we're proportionately providing value to each other. And then third is communication. Do we understand how each other communicates? Now, as a SchiffCo member, you have access to a really great course called True Colors. It's one of the best ways to determine how somebody communicates and determine how your communication style is. It's called True Colors, Communicate to Win. It's a lesson that you can take in the core. I highly recommend it if you're going to be working with partners, because it gives you a chance to understand how you communicate and gives you a chance to understand how your potential partner communicates. So just to review, you really need to understand the why, what, and how of partners. So why am I going to partner? What am I looking for in a partner? How am I going to do it? So the ABCs are part of that. The other part of the how is that crawl, walk, run. Start informal, then move to the second phase, which is a contractual relationship. And then if you want to take it to the next level where it's equity-based, feel free to go ahead and do that. Here's an example of what that process would look like. So what you want to do with your partners is you want to agree to that partnership process. So crawl is basically, let's define the ABCs together. So basically, are we aligned? How do we know that? B, what is the mutual beneficial way we're going to work together? And then C is, how do we communicate? Then set up a small little partner trial, keep it very informal, have an exit plan if it fails. So that's crawl. That's informal, nice and easy. Then if you, at the end of that, you can think about, are we aligned? Do we want to move forward? What adjustments do I want to make to this relationship? Remember, it's a relationship. Then you move to walk. In the walk phase, you're going to use all the lessons that you just learned. And now you're going to put them in a contract. It's one of the reasons why, even though people say this is counterintuitive, that I say do the actual contract after crawl. Let me say that again, do an actual contract after crawl. Keep it very informal in the crawl stage, because what happens if it doesn't work out? What happens if you learn things about that partner that now are not in your contract? So I like to do the contract in that next level, in that second phase, after I've done an informal partnership, because now I know you a little bit. I've got a chance to see you work. I know I need to put some T's and C's in my contract. And then I'm going to revisit those ABCs. And now we're going to expand the scope of the partnership and create the contract. If that goes well, is it a win-win? Do we want to take it more formal? Quite honestly, you can scale a business with partnerships in the crawl and walk stage and never have to take an equity partner. I highly, highly recommend that. And the equity partnership should only be when we really want to formalize it. So now we want to include more ways to benefit each other. This is a great time to move to an entity structure, not before. So just lesson to the wise. The next piece I want to talk about is when you're in that second phase of that, where we're moving to the contract. There's 5 different partnership models. So this, you can take a picture of this. White label is, I have a client who needs something I don't offer. I bring somebody to the table who has something complementary. A lot of our SchiffCo members do this with each other, but the contracting and branding stays with me. It's not transparent to the client. So let's say that I'm I have a demand generation company and I don't do websites. And so I partner with a website company. We have a white label contract, and you're going to deliver those websites under my brand to my clients, but you're doing the work. That's one model. Second is subcontract. In this case, we represent our own brand, but one person holds the paper, one person holds the contract. So I would take your pricing, I would propose it to my client, I would mark it up. You would be subcontracting, and that subcontractor is interchangeable. You're a separate entity, but I'm holding the contract with my client and I'm marking up what you offer. Also, sometimes called a pass-through. Rev share is we're going to propose something together and we're going to agree at the beginning of the project who does what and who gets what. This is helpful when we have multiple members on a project. The key is transparency on who does what and who gets what. One price to the client, the revenue is divided, there's upside, but we all know what we're getting. It works really well with strategic partnerships. Referral fee is I have a client who needs your services. I earn a referral fee for sending it to you, but I'm not involved with the project. This can be established at the beginning. And the last is affiliate and commission. It's similar to referral, but happens at more scale, such as selling a point solution or a product. So there's some examples there. I hope this little tutorial helps you with partner models. Partner models are a great way to scale. Just remember, you don't have to jump into an equity-based relationship. Instead, think crawl, walk, run. Thanks.